first got to Pittsburgh, I was asking everybody I ran into for the first few weeks how they would describe Pittsburgh in one word. And 98% of the people I asked had the same word. And the word was, anybody?
Friendly.
It's like 100%, okay. The word was friendly, it's great. I come here from New York City, where I grew up, and I knew the word, well, I was shocked by friendly. I called my friends back in New York, I said, get a load of this. What's the word in New York? And I knew what the word would be, and they all gave me the same word, and the one word for life in New York was crazy. So I figured, okay, I moved from crazy to friendly, that's not a bad thing. What brought me here was graduate school there at Pitt. I was getting an MFA degree in fiction writing. And my first impressions of it were not really favorable. I was already published. I published some Western novels, as every Brooklyn boy writes, of course. And I was also teaching back in New York also at a school for middle school kids. But I thought it was time to move on to a more advanced degree, and I came here for the MFA. And I wasn't sure which program to choose of the MFAs that I applied to because I was 35 and knew that my MFA life wouldn't be about just school. I figured it's got to be a nice place to live too. And that was the year that Rand McNally, Places Rated Guide, declared Pittsburgh to be the #1 most livable city in the country. I thought, there's a sign, so I came to Pittsburgh. Wasn't crazy about the program at first. I was very much a fish out of water, I think, getting into the rigors of academic life as a graduate student. And I remember there was a rumor about one professor even, I don't know if it's true or not, but he led a class at one point and was discussing some French philosopher and said, well, ask somebody to translate from the French some phrase. And no one volunteered, and he said, well, surely you all speak French, and no one did, so he conducted the rest of the class in French. So it went. That was the room. I can't attest to whether that was true. But I also knew, having published Western novels, that my writing was considered something less than the academic ideal, more pulp fiction kind of stuff. So I was having trouble with graduate school at that point, and I had not yet discovered Oakland, but before long I did. And what I found was Hemingway's. There were readings going on. I would go to those. And I discovered also the Carnegie Museum's writer series, and I heard Stephen King, and Linda Fairstein, and Michael Chabon, who of course went to Pitt. And these were very inspiring, and I came to think of Oakland through being a graduate student as a very literary place. I'm concerned with and loving of and supportive of writing and literature. And I like that a lot. And I met someone here who was in the graduate program writing for, and I can't mention the exact title contractually, but I can say writing for a series of young adult mysteries involving two brothers who solved crimes. I'll leave it to you to maybe come up with an idea. So I started writing for the series. And it was very interesting to do. And I graduated, and I kept writing for the series. And then started teaching. So I went from graduate school student to a teacher for the Osher program. I don't know if anyone knows it. It's Pitt's adult education program. Great. And it let me see Oakland in another way, namely as this hub, really, of learning. People came here from all neighborhoods in the city and from outside the city to take classes, not for degrees or some certification, but because they loved learning whatever was being offered. I was teaching and still teach a class in film appreciation. And it's very it's fun to talk about that. And I use something, again, from my New York roots, which was, I mentioned I wrote back there, I was a movie reviewer, and here I got a chance to talk about movies. So that was enjoyable. I mentioned also that I was writing for this mysterious mystery series. I had an idea for one book that would be set in a police academy. It seemed natural. Got the two brothers solving crimes. There's danger, there are clues, there's all kinds of cliffhanger possibilities at the end of each chapter. But I didn't know anything about police academy, so in an immersion journalism move, I joined the police academy. It was really interesting. Take your favorite cop show. This was more interesting yet, because we were learning this stuff, and I did learn this stuff. And at the end of it, I couldn't say no to policing, and I became a police officer. And I was assigned, I'm happy to say, to Zone 4. The city has 6 zones. Zone 4 is where we are now. It's the one that's got the most neighborhoods to it. And it was fascinating now to see Oakland from the perspective or the view of not a graduate student nor an instructor, but a cop. Cops' eyes are different generally, as you can imagine. And things that I noticed, of course, had to do with crime and safety. Students, for instance, especially in Oakland, are very much involved in crime, not so much in committing it, but as victims of crime, because, and I could go on, maybe they're new to the area, it's the first time living away from parents, they don't lock doors, they don't close windows often, they don't think about where they park, they have loud parties, so they were, well, both victims and perpetrators, call it, of other kinds of minor crimes, underage drinking, false ID, this kind of thing. And I dealt with residents too. I was answering 911 calls as a patrol officer. And residents of Oakland had problems to a fair extent with students. Comes as no surprise, because of loud parties, say, or not putting away their trash or parking across driveways. And some of the universities like Pitt, shut this off. That's about cool. Some of the calls, or well, what the university did, happily and still does, is try to mediate, I think, between residents and students. Students being new and having to have things explained to them about how they're going to be more, and it's only civil to be more courteous to people who've lived here a long time. I used something else, though, from my past, which was, I mentioned that I used to teach at a grade school. And what I had taught included writing, but also chess. Taught 5th graders chess. And there were all kinds of good reasons to teach kids chess. They learned critical thinking skills and problem solving, and how to be good winners and good losers, and how to see the big picture of the whole board rather than just one corner of it. Lots of lessons to learn from chess for kids. So I started a Pittsburgh chess club in Hazelwood. And it's now been 3.5 years, I think. It's been well, I'm glad to say. We just had our first tournament. And when a Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback, Josh Dobbs, came and visited and sang at the station on Northumberland Street, Christmas carols around December, I asked the other players, any of you guys play chess? And they all said, he does, he does. So I asked if he'd be willing to pay a visit to Hazelwood, because these kids would be just inspired as anything to see a guy who's not only a quarterback for the Steelers, but also a chess lover, and who had a great education at the University of Tennessee, where he studied aerodynamic engineering, got a 4.0 GPA, besides being a quarterback for the Steelers. So he's come several times, and when we had our tournament, he said, I'm there, and he donated a bunch of money to pay for t-shirts and pizza and trophies. T-shirts look kind of like this. So I mentioned him just because he was just a wonderful person and continues to be, and I spoke with his mother today. He'll be providing ice cream on Tuesday, Brewster's for the kids too. But what I wanted to say also is that my perspective of Oakland's changed at least these 3 times with each of 3 jobs. And I think the neighborhood can accommodate those changes because there's enough going on here. It's rich enough and vital and vibrant enough that pretty much no matter what your interests are, you can find something that engages you here. So I continue to spend time in Oakland, also with chess clubs. This Sunday will be the library's extravaganza. And I will have number 6 tent, that's the chess tent, as I have for the last 4 years, so if you're there, drop by. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer David.